The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
Christ, we got extra up there. Let's follow a range on me, Christ. I'm doing out right on the target right now. I've got a couple of these right in front of me. I'm going out for it. Right, I got him.
Welcome back to the Lead Pursuit Podcast. Tonight we're going to have a real treat, and no, it's not because we have the whole team on, because once again, my weak team couldn't all make it. Steve's sick tonight, but I've got Matt. Matt, how you doing? It's good to have you on the podcast. Yeah, it's a virtual Monday. It's Monday 4th Award, I think, something like that. But I managed to steal Brett and get Brett back on the cast, and you guys can't see it, but the beard is coming back. It's not quite there. The mustache is making its appearance, but by Adepticon, Brett, will you be the Gordon's fisherman, fry fisherman?
Or Yukon Cornelius, maybe?
Yukon Cornelius. I think that's the other one. Yeah. So that's good. That's good. Glad to see the beards coming back. Now that we got you employed again, you don't have to look respectable. All right. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about Voidfighter, which if you have not seen it, it's a game from Osprey. It's a Starfighter game. But before we do that, we want to throw out our schedule. Fall in at the 7th through 9th of November. I will not be there. I will be probably falling down drunk at a Marine Corps birthday ball somewhere. But for the rest of you who want to be in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Steve will be there at least for a day. There's going to be a couple other people playing Blood Red Skies. No, Charles will be up there. So please go to Fall In. Please patronize HMGS and have a good time up there. It's still going to be pretty cool. Lots of good events. I've been looking at some of the people submitting stuff for the schedule. It should be a lot of fun. At the same time was supposed to be PhalanxCon. Thankfully, that has moved. So they have shifted that to next year, 25 May. We will be there, all things being equal. It's still in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And if you say, where's Hopkinsville, Kentucky? Yes, that's the same question I asked. So Hopkinsville, Kentucky at the Bruce Convention Center. We will do Blood Red Skies. We'll do some aeronautica, and we'll have a good time up there with a fairly new convention in our region. One of the other ones, Hold the Line. Steve Garske has been telling us about this one. It's down at Camp Perry. So if you're like me, you don't know Camp Perry for wargaming things. You know Camp Perry for national matches for high power rifle and cool shooty things. Down there, 14 to 15 November, there is a game convention going on. And Matt's looking like, really? They have shooting things at Camp Perry? Yes, they do, Matt. For those of us that shot high-powered rifles. So, things you didn't know. They're going to have some Blood Red Skies there. They're going to have a bunch of other things going on. The web link will be in the show notes at the bottom. If you want to take a look at it, please, if you're in the area and can go to Camp Perry, Ohio, please go and play Blood Red Skies. And then it goes without being said, the most important event. Brett, what's our most important event of the year?
Adepticon.
It's time to plan for Adepticon again. So Adepticon of 2026, 25 to 29 March. We will be there. We will be doing Blood Red Skies Tournament, Beyond Mig Alley, Aeronautica Imperialis, any game that involves flying, probably some Voidfighter, having a good time doing the aerial wargaming things. I have no idea what our schedule looks like. I've submitted some events already, but it's going to be another good chance to get together, sit down for a few days, and play war games. Sadly, though, Matt will not be joining us again this year as he keeps having more and more excuses. That's all right, Matt. Don't worry. We'll just take Connor with us.
Well, he seemed kind of like touched after the last time.
He enjoyed being my cabin boy.
Literally and figuratively.
I had the nice big king bed and he had the pull-out couch. But, No, there was no personal servitude going on there at all. All right, so let's go ahead and press on. Those are the events we have. I know there's a couple others out there. Please, if you have an event, send us your information. We'll send you some swag. We'll send you T-shirts. We'll send you magnets, glasses, all those kind of things. And if you're really, really nice to us, maybe we'll send you a Grognard Rendition Team T-shirt in your preferable size. All right. Enough about all the events. Let's talk about Voidfighter. So, Voidfighter. Tonight we're joined by none other than Casey Garske, the creator, who I actually insulted when I first started talking to him in email. I assumed he wrote for Osprey. There's no way he could be an American. He's obviously one of those stinky Brits. Casey, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, and it's very funny because you should have known that I was American because no British person would have a art brief for that cover with someone doing like a hang loose.
I should have. I should have looked at that and been like, "What? The Brits don't get that. They wouldn't understand that." Well,
Right.
it is funny. So we generally we always blame British game designers. If there's something we don't like in a game, it's because they were British. It wasn't because either they had a valid rule or we misinterpreted or whatever, oh, that's a stupid rule. They must be British. So I apologize in advance for any rules I dislike of yours, and I blame on you being British because you're not.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, it's good to have you. So we really enjoyed playing. For everyone on listening to the podcast, Matt and I got to play with our usual Aeronautica group. So we had Connor, we had Rick. Miriam chickened out. She didn't want to learn a new game. Whatever. That's all right. So she didn't play Voidfighter, but the rest of us did and had a really good time. So I said, guess what? We're going to get on the podcast. We're going to talk to Casey, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the game because it is a lot of fun. It is very different than some other Starfighter games, but kind of like Blood Red Skies and the other games that we really enjoy playing, it scales well. It has a lot of stuff going on that you can keep multiple aircraft moving and fighting and not being bogged down like you're playing a space version of Check Your Six. So with that, Casey, let's get a little background on you. How did you get into wargaming?
D&D.
Oh my God, not one of those people. Yes. That's shocking from where you're from. I really find that so hard to believe from that neck of the woods.
Yes, I do live in Dave Arneson's, hometown. And the one good thing to come out of Wisconsin, it's D&D.
Well, there's the Oshkosh flying. That's the only other good thing I can think of.
Yeah, Oshkosh is pretty good. Okay, beer is good. Cheese is good.
Yeah,
meat sticks are good.
Yep, nothing healthy. Oh wait, they've got apples. Not apples. That's it. That's not the only healthy.
So I had a few minis when I was a kid. Like I bought the battle system, the TSR battle system box, because I was at Barnes and Noble or Walden Books or wherever I was at, and I had my allowance money to spend, and it's like, okay, this looks cool. And it was full of chits, and there were two actual minis in it. And I don't know what kind of paints I painted them with. I'm sure I painted them with a Testor's brush or something like that.
It probably is Testor's enamel. If you were a child of the 80s, like the rest of us, the odds are it was a horribly ugly Testor's enamel paint job you put on those miniatures.
Yeah, I have no idea where I would have even got the paint, except my dad does airplane modeling and stuff like that. So, but then after that, I didn't do much. I also, as a kid, mistakenly bought Dungeon Bowl, the expansion for Blood Bowl, without knowing anything about Blood Bowl. So my friend and I had to make up all the extra rules that we were missing. And then after that, it was 3rd edition D&D kind of went to more tactical combat on the grid and stuff like that. So I started buying Reaper miniatures and D&D miniatures and stuff like that. So I did not come through Warhammer despite playing a little bit of Hero Quest, and accidentally buying Dungeon Bowl instead, but it was mostly through role playing and stuff like that. And then it wasn't long after that I started playing other games. I've still never really played any Games Workshop games besides just lightly dabbling with a game of 40K and Warcry and convincing my nephew to try a game of Kill Team. And that is basically I've read lots of rules, but playing, not really. But
Count yourself lucky.
Yeah, right.
You don't have a closet of shame because of getting bogged down in
plenty of, not the books maybe, but I still have plenty of Space Marines and stuff like that. It hasn't stopped me from buying a couple box sets.
they're great quality minis, and they've always been cutting edge. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Behind me, I've got all my display cases, at least over here, full of airplanes, but over there, full of GW Space Marines and things like that I haven't played in years, I think, since the last time I touched 30K or 40K. Well, what got you into space fighter kind of wargaming? How'd you end up in that?
When, I don't know if any of you were on, this is like very niche role-playing stuff, but they're on, when Google had their own social media network, Google Plus.
Oh my God, G Plus. We were talking about that a while back.
It comes from Google Plus. So there was like a lot of role-playing people on there and some people painting minis and stuff like that. But it was just this really creative group of people that, it was a great place to get inspiration and stuff like that. So I was on that a lot, talking about like role-playing games and some minis game stuff too. But then I was like, okay, I can't remember exactly what started it. I started designing what became Voidfighter before X-Wing even came out. I was like, okay, I want to play with like some Star Wars minis. And when I was a teenager, my favorite video game was like X-Wing and TIE Fighter and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. And so when they made Return of the Jedi, the ILM people wanted visual references or like some kind of reference material for how fast all the Star Wars ships go. So someplace I found on the internet, I found Matt. I can see that Matt knows what I'm talking about. There's a drawing.
I know exactly
I don't know
what
who
you're talking
drew it,
about.
but just some like, I just am so jealous of how those guys draw. There's an X-Wing and it goes 75 megalights, whatever the hell megalite is, and then a TIE Fighter is the same, and a Y-Wing is the same, and the Millennium Falcon's a little slower, and the B-Wing is the same as the Millennium Falcon, and the A-Wing is faster than everything. TIE Interceptor is kind of in the middle. And I was like, if I just transferred each one of these like 25 megalights or whatever to a hex, I can just make a Star Wars game that's based on this chart, like this drawing right here. This is a whole game right by itself. And then so I like had all this, it was on hexes and like an extra stat for how many times you could turn a hex side for free before you had to start spending your movement points for it. And it was totally playable, it was totally workable, but I never like finished it or anything. So then fast forward to COVID and, not having anything better to do during lockdown, I started dabbling with minis rules again. And I was like, well, what if I took my old snub fighter rules, because that's what I was calling it then, and started making a skirmish game. So I took the base of those rules and I wrote a game called Space Weirdos, which does pretty well on like Wargame Vault. And I did a Kickstarter during Zine Quest 3 or something like that. And then Adam Loper, Uncle Adam YouTube channel, liked it. And when he mentioned it on his YouTube channel, it really took off because people, would hear about it and buy it. It's $5. Why not? Just buy it. And so then people wanted me to write a fantasy version. So once I felt like I had enough new material to not just like be a reskin where it had its own, good solid themes and stuff like that, I was like, okay, I can write Sword Weirdos. So I did a Kickstarter for that. And then while I was finishing that, I was having a really hard time just like crossing the finish line and, getting the last things done. And we took my son for spring break, we went to a resort up by Duluth, Minnesota. and it's off season. So it's snow. I mean, it's like winter, so he's in the pool with absolutely alone, and I'm sitting on my computer, and I, for some reason, went back to my snub fighter notes. I was like, okay, what if I just got rid of the hexes and I use the same movement system with sticks that I do for Space Weirdos and Sword Weirdos, and what can I do with this? And I also play a lot of Saga. I don't know if you guys historical minis game, and that uses several different length sticks, but then so does like Song of Blades and Heroes and Dead Man's Hand.
Yep.
All these games, have sticks, and I was like, well, I can get a little more complicated, so I don't need just one length of stick. We can have a long, a short, and a medium. That's fine. And then so once I came up with that and figured out how to, do the turns and stuff like that, which is, lots of games just have, if you get to the end of your movement, your vehicle can turn 90 degrees. It's like
you confused Matt with that rule. I'm sorry. Matt was like, wait, why I want to turn early? I'm like, that's a different trait. We'll come back to that. That's a special rule.
Right.
Yeah, we had to have a long discussion about that just because it was different, and that was like wait, like, and then like I've read the base rules, but not reading the full rules all the way through. I was like, I just had to, like, typical fashion, had to ask Doug every single time we had to do something.
Which is a trend,
like,
and you don't know this, Casey, but literally it's a trend
this?
amongst the members of the podcast that just buy the miniatures for the game, and Doug will teach you to play, and we'll all get together to Adepticon. The guys are like, we haven't played in a year. How do we play again? And I just hang my head in shame, and I'm like, all right, I'll give you guys an intro.
I've never played the same game with Blood Red
Half of that
Skies
is because
twice.
we're constantly playtesting other things. And so, poor Matt comes in and goes, wait, I thought when we shot a missile, it was 3 dice. And now you tell me it's 2 dice plus a modifier. I'm so confused. What am I doing? Yeah.
So I, instead of working on Sword Weirdos, I wrote like basically the entire base of what became Voidfighter. And I was like, okay, I got to put this aside. But here's what I promised myself, that when I finished Sword Weirdos, that I would send a proposal to Osprey for Snub Fighter, and just for fun to see what they said. So I got Sword Weirdos done, and it must have been, it was over 2 years ago, May 2023 or something like that. I sent the proposal to Osprey on like a Friday, and Monday morning when I woke up, they were like, hey, you should send us what you've got and let us take a look at it. So I'm sorry to everybody that gets rejected a bunch of times before they get published. It seems pretty easy to me.
Yeah, it's, and that's one of the funny things. I was having that discussion with a couple of guys, because they're like, how do you write a proposal? And I'm so confused. And I'm like, okay, first of all, here's the reality. Sometimes you write the dumbest proposal in the world. You're like, I want to write rules about airplanes and move little miniatures, and people accept it because of timing or what that person's interest is that's on the team that's reviewing your proposal. And there's other times that you have this beautifully crafted discussion of how you're going to do the rules. And they're like, yeah, we're just not feeling it. And you're like, but I spent like 2 weeks writing the actual rules I would put in the rules system. Yeah. So Steve and I have even had that discussion.
I made sure to put in there, it's like, you have a nice fleet game with a billion stars, but you don't have a dogfighting game. And I'm pretty sure that telling them that I had something for a new niche was key there.
Yeah.
So you brought up something kind of interesting so you started writing
it was about
before
the same
X-Wing
time,
came out.
I remember I was like, I just noodling with it a little bit because I had Micro Machines. And so that's what just about all my play testing was done with Micro Machines. And then I built Lego ships, and I just saw that someone reminded me that I could not remember where I got my Battlestar Galactica fighters from, and it was a company called Studio Bergstrom that I'd forgotten the name of. So I had Vipers and Raiders from them. So that's all my play testing was. So I remember being like, oh,
okay,
X-Wing. Okay, so now there's like a big time,
Because two important people with your game.
Right, and I had published a role-playing game at the time, but I hadn't published, but that was it. And then after I saw that, it's a Fantasy Flight game, and there's a million different cards. It's like as soon as people see that they can play a game with the same minis where they don't have to have a million different little cards in front of them and special dice or anything like that, then we'll be fine.
That definitely was something I appreciated, especially when Doug was like, "There's only 3 different weapons." I was like, "Oh, sweet, okay, I don't have to spend." That was always my frustration with X-Wing was it was hard to play a casual game if you had played more than 2 or 3 times and wanted to add proton torpedoes or something else on another weapon system, mines or anything like that. It was really difficult to do that against an opponent that maybe played once or at least had played something you could get the understanding, because they spend like an hour trying to build out like 4 fighters. And it was like, flipping through pages and pages and pages of the cards to be like, oh, well, there's a tractor beam too. Maybe I could add that. And it's like, dude, I don't have that much time. We just gotta go. And I tried once just to do a standard list or pull something off the internet, and they're like, no, I want to do it myself. And I'm like, I understand that's appealing to you, but we're never going to play if we don't have a set. And let's say I mentioned earlier when I flipped them back and I saw the pre-made ships.
Although
I was like,
I will say
good, I don't have to think.
that was kind of the brief when I forget whether it was you or Rick asked about the equipment list. I'm like, shut up. We're not going to talk about the equipment list. All those other things, it doesn't matter. We're just going to talk about what your firepower, what your defensive rating, your pilot are, and your speed.
Right.
Don't worry about the rest of those things. We'll get to that later.
Right. Don't get ahead of yourself. Yep.
yeah, exactly. Well, which was, once again, the thing that I enjoyed teaching a game was that it was very easy to strip off all of the excess chrome that is really cool, that has cool rules, interactions, and cool interactions as counters to other things, and just go snub fighters, forward firing weapons. Everyone's going to fly, with 2d6 damage. They're going to have 2d or 2d6 firepower, 2d8 defense, and pilot for 2d8. Okay, let's go.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yes. And that's something that I kind of take from role-playing games, especially people think that old school D&D, I'm an old school D&D guy. They think that things are clunky because there's one system for your attributes, there's another system for your saving throws, there's another system to make your attacks, there's another system that doesn't necessarily mesh for your armor, all these different things. But all these things can interact in different ways. And so when I've made, Space Weirdos, Sword Weirdos, and Voidfighter now, each one of those has a thing you can take away and you can still play the game. You don't have to play with command points. You could just get rid of command points and say you can shoot 1 torpedo around or something like that if you've got torpedoes. You can strip away the special abilities and things like that and just play with the 4 numbers, and that's it. And you'd have a fine time. But yeah, I try to make things modular. So, and then that way I also want people to tinker with the rules. People on my Discord ask all the time, oh, how do I do this? It's well, just make it up. How do you think that? I mean, look at what is there, for a piece of equipment or something like that, or for Voidfighter, a special power or something like that. Look at what the other ones do, and think about whether yours is basically in the same wheelhouse of not being game breaking, just a small bonus, plus or minus or whatever, and then you're probably fine. At the most, you're going to be able to use something 4 times in a game, because it's going to go about 4 or 5 rounds. So if you don't do something crazy, whatever you do is probably not going to break the game. So go crazy.
I will say we spammed the heck out of the Cobra maneuver. Mostly because we didn't realize you could only use it one time per
the second turn they tried to play a second Cobra maneuver. I'm like, what part of you get one of these per turn did you not hear? I don't care that you have 2 command points,
I mean, I think Connor and I literally looked at each other and like, wait, did he tell us that before? I was like, I don't think he did. And then you're like, well, there's another maneuver, the split S,
Well,
that
like
he
I
can also do.
intentionally
And we're
didn't
like,
tell
well,
you
didn't tell us
that.
that.
Giving you
Right.
small little digestible bits of this
Right.
game,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Sure.
But it was kind of funny, and we'll talk a little bit about the rules. But the interaction between command points, defensive maneuvers, or offensive things that you can do during shooting phases, you know, all those different interactions. To me, it was vastly simplified from what you see in a lot of games, but you still had choices. And so that's what I enjoyed, was that there were things you could do, and there were probably a lot of what in other games would have been multiple systems or ways of defending, you know, narrowed down to, you can elect to do a guns D.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that will make it harder to shoot you.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that get compressed and simplified. But what I enjoyed was, even though there weren't a lot of maneuvers, I could do everything I needed to. And I think that really was an outgrowth of being able to make up to a 90-degree turn at the end of your move. And then you could opt to either move, then do a maneuver, or do a maneuver, then move, or double move. You know, that whole option in there that gives you an ability to make some granular turns, and then to freak out and do a Cobra maneuver or whatever you were doing when you were getting shot at your mat. So for those who haven't played, the game has a Cobra maneuver that basically allows you to launch yourself backwards when you're getting shot at. Now, I mean, should you fail your pilot skill roll, you still get shot at. But when you succeed, you get to launch yourself back in the opposite direction. And so it's pretty funny. Attack. And still attack, true, because you don't use your activation. So yeah. So I also have to tell you, this is for me, being a retired Marine aviator, I enforce on my podcast team the old Top Gun bet of, if you say something from Top Gun, you owe a beer. The problem is, in your rules, like, all the references to everything else in there are Top Gun references. So I'm surprised Matt didn't start counting beers, as I'm like, okay, and the name of this, you know, maneuver is.
I also decided to just, like, I mean, that's what it is. So why not just? Yeah. I mean, it's just it's Danger Zone.
It is. You sit there, you go through. It's Danger Zone, Fox 1, Better Lucky Than Good. You know, all these things that are total aviation, you know, Top Gun military aviation things. And I'm like, I'm going to owe so many beers by the end of the night. But that's all right. No, it was
as a non-military, non-aviator, I'm glad you like it.
No, I did. It was a lot of fun. The good thing, as we kind of alluded to, it's miniature agnostic. So use what you got. I did laugh at the whole discussion of, you know, square bases, round bases, hex bases, and then, you know, optional rules for using hex bases with different kinds of deflection shooting. So that was a cool rules tweak that I wasn't necessarily expecting. But, you know, with the miniatures agnostic, I've got to kind of put the question back to you. When people play the game and they read the rules and they say, oh, there's 3 classes of ships. I've got snub fighters. All right, that makes sense. That's a TIE fighter. That's an X-wing. That's a Y-wing. I've got gunships. Okay, so that's bigger and it's got turrets. And then I've got corvettes. And of course, if we're Star Wars guys, I go to Corvette and I immediately think of, you know, the blockade runner. Yeah. So what do you use in your games size wise when you're playing? Because thankfully in the rules you're like, yeah, just use whatever works, you know, which is good.
And that's totally fine, because like I said, when I started playtesting, I was just using micro machines, and so micro machines are built around like a certain size. So even the big ships are the same size as the starfighters.
Scale? We don't have a scale.
Yeah, scale doesn't matter. You know, as long as you're measuring from the edge of the base, and so that means that someone can shoot at you and you can shoot at them at the same distance if you're just using the base as your reference. I saw, because of course I'm like Googling myself in discussions and stuff like that, and I saw some, must have been like an old Grognard. Apparently the show's got like some problems with the old Grognard.
Yes, we don't like Grognards here. If you're a Grognard, you can leave now. We might let you leave with your life if you're lucky.
I would not put myself, even though my love of old games, there is no stodginess to me, I don't think. But he was wondering, why don't you just measure from the post of the miniature? And it's like, well, if we've got a the stick is 10 inches, like, so most of your shots are 10 inches. If you have a giant Corvette, like if you have a big mini, like the X-Wing Corvette, which is what, 9 inches long, or something, maybe it's a foot long. I don't know. It's
I wouldn't
huge.
know. Ask Matt.
Yeah.
He probably has 3 of them.
It is about a foot.
Only one.
I have one. I have one.
Yeah.
If you put the stick
Yes.
against the post, you're going to be shooting. It's going to look stupid because you're going to be shooting about 5 inches out from the front of the ship or something like that. So it doesn't matter. It's like actually, and my comeback is always space is big. Like like its scale does not really matter. I mean, it often doesn't in fleet games anyway. Some games put tiny little fighters on 3 stands, and some games don't. They just have a fighter, and it's understood that is not the same size as the carrier that it just launched from, or something like that. But because I do like things to look cool together, when I use my micro machines, I was like, okay, I do want some things that look cooler for Star Wars. Right. So I think the Millennium Falcon micro machine still looks pretty good because it's kind of round, so it's chunkier. But then for the Corvettes, there's what's called Hasbro Titanium series. Mm-hmm. So they've got die-cast models that you can usually find or you used to be able to find in the toy aisle at like Target or wherever, and it's about 3.5 inches long. So it's bigger than the fighters. So it just looks like more imposing. So I like to use, if I was playing with my micro machines, I like that Corvette. My newest thing was, I'm also kind of a Lego guy, and the Lego Star Wars advent calendars every year often come with tiny little like sets, like each day is like 8 or 9 pieces. Might be a micro figure or whatever. But there's tiny little ships too, and some of them are really good. Like the little X-Wing, it's like a tiny little X-Wing. I don't think I've got any sitting here. Well, it doesn't matter. This is a podcast anyway. Anyway, imagine a cool little Lego X-Wing made out of like 12 pieces. So I did that with X-Wings, TIE fighters, all the main Star Wars ships. And then there are some, you can find them at Target or at Lego stores, like the Polybag, like it's a slightly bigger ship. And so there was a Millennium Falcon version of that. So I put one of those together. It looks great. And then I unfortunately discovered that there's a website called Rebrickable, where where people sell their own designs for like a couple bucks. Yeah. And then if you hit a button on the website, it will send you over to Bricklink, which is the website to buy Lego parts, and it'll show you the sellers that have like a majority of those parts for that. So that's how I got a Hammerhead Corvette from Rogue One, and
slippery slope at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
A Gozanti Cruiser from the Rebels cartoon that carries perfectly four TIE fighters underneath it. And I mean, and you can see like all these things influences in the rules, because like that's where a Corvette carrying 4 snub fighters comes from, is from that Star Wars Rebels Gozanti Cruiser carrying 4 TIE fighters. I made sure that TIE fighters came out to 10 points, and then in a maximum point game of 150 points, you could have 15 TIE fighters, and then if you have the Imperial numbers squadron special rule, then you get 1 10-point ship for free, making 16 TIE fighters, which is the maximum number of ships that activate 4. So that's I mean, that's what's going on in my brain while I'm writing the rules.
No, that's funny. That's good. Well, and let's talk about it because you brought it up. There's a couple key mechanics that I really enjoyed coming from games like Aeronautica Imperialis, where you can end up in a activation deficit as your force either gets decimated or just based on if you're playing a high point value per fighter force.
Right.
So the cool thing is in Voidfighter, it basically, I'll say this for the Starfleet Battles nerds out there. In a sense, it cuts the activations into 4 impulses. So you take your forces, however many you have, and you divide by 4, and it forces you to move earlier rather than later in there. So if you're down to 1 fighter, you move in the first activation quadrant. And then obviously it has an initiative system that we're not going to delve into detail here, but was a lot of fun. But an initiative system that then forces you to go in alternating moves inside that. So it still isn't I go entire side, you go, nor was it alternating, I go, you go, and then everyone else is extra fighters. So we obviously didn't get much of a flavor for that because we each had 1 fighter. So we all just moved right out. One would just alternate right after each other, 2 sides, 1 fighter each for each of the players. But it seemed like a really good way to compress that excess activations that you see in a lot of games, like the Tau in Aeronautica Imperialis. If they bring a bunch of drones, got a bunch of excess activations,
Yeah, I didn't want, and as coming from writing other games too, is like some people when they play Space Weirdos, which just has alternating activations, 1, 1, 1, 1, and you do everything with each model as you go. So then as more and more people, like, these are things that you like might not come up in playtesting, but like after people have been playing it for months or years, like they figure this stuff out. It's like, okay, a cheap guy with a assault rifle and a bunch of them is going to beat like the tougher guys every time. So it's like, okay, I don't want, and so like your 4 Space Marines go, and then the other guy has like 5 guys left to go with,
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's got 10 guys and you've got 4 or whatever. So I didn't want that. And I also wanted to break it up into the phases. So like all the movement is done and then we go to shooting.
Yep.
So that not everything is just like, otherwise you're just pushing around a different kind of mini from like some other skirmish game, like Kill Team or whatever.
Yep.
And I had played around with a few different ways of activating. Like I had, when I started, everything was, you had a wingmate, so you're always buying 2 of something because there was each plane had a wingman, and then you would go with the 2 of them. And it's like, well, this was just a way to simplify that. It's like, okay, we're just going to go 4 times. And just arbitrarily decide that it's 4 times. It could be 3, it could be however many, but 4 seemed good. It didn't seem like too many, didn't seem like too few. You would probably have at least 4 ships, and you might have upwards of 12. So it just seemed like a pretty good fit to do it like that. And then if makes the other person go with some of their ships. So even if you lose initiative, you're going to have a couple people that are probably their asses are hanging out dry because they have nobody else has maneuvered and they have to just go wherever and hope they end up, being able to do something useful. But the other people that go, the other ships that go after that should be able to at least react to what the other player's doing. So you're never like going to be, you're always going to be able to react to someone.
Yeah, I liked it because when you have that spread loaded ability to react, it doesn't make you feel like you get painted in a corner. And so it isn't like you go, well, I guess I'm just going to move out there and I'm going to be a dumb target for everybody else.
Right.
You say, okay, I may have one guy that does that, but there's at least part of my force that I feel like I can truly stop and make a tactical decision rather than just, well, I'm just going to fly around here and try not to get shot, hope I don't get.
And if you have a Corvette, you can always decide, I'm just going to barrel them forward.
Yeah.
And let the turrets do the work,
Yep. That's why I was laughing, because I was looking at some of the stat blocks for him, and I'm like, this could be fun. This could be my style of flying, because I got totally killed by turn 2 because I just flew in the middle of everything, was fooling around, goofing off, and pretty much Matt and Connor decided to dogpile on me at that point, so that was fine.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was something I liked too. The movement was once you kind of got, I guess in mine, just 'cause I'm familiar with other flight or spacecraft games. Once that kind of got that in my head, it became very more like intuitive, and it wasn't like just to use X-Wing is the obvious example with the templates. And I kind of mentioned this earlier before we started recording. The templates drove me nuts. Like it was kind of like it's a little bit like chess. If you knew all the moves, you were inherently superior. But this, because there's a lot more, are you going to go the full, the minimum 3 inches and stop, or you're going to go to the full 5 or anywhere in between, and then how exactly you're going to turn? It's not as like precise as X-Wing was, and I really, really appreciated that.
I like templates and Gaslands, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I agree. I have right there with
you. Brett's a big Gaslands player. He and his son have played a fair amount. Well, let's talk a couple other parts of the game system. So things that people may not be used to from other space fighter games, although I think Pat's got this as one of his rules for Squadron Commander, escalating dice system. So, you start with a base, in this case, at like let's say 2d6 for your firepower. As it gets nerfed, it becomes 2d4, or if it gets bonuses, you'll have threshold shifts that could give it a +1, or maybe a threshold shift up to actually, be a 2d8, 2d12, things like that. So that was a fun balancing of the odds, because it became obvious sometimes, and I don't remember the exact situation, but I think it was Matt that was rolling, or no, it was Rick that was rolling 2d4 against 2d12 from Matt, and we're like, I don't know why we're even going to roll this, but we're going to go ahead and roll it because there's a slim chance.
I mean, you play enough, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. But I liked that because it gave you a way to very rapidly change the odds without being just a +1, +2, +3. No, we're gonna shift that entire die pair threshold.
And we did have some surprises. I rolled that Snake Eyes.
It was 2d10 on that. It was either an 8 or 10. It was one where we're like, there's no way.
Yeah, so it was something insane. I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah. And it was straight Snake Eyes. So you're right. This is the first time playing, and it happens. And I really like that. It was intuitive. Once Doug kind of explained, we're not adding any numbers. We're adding or subtracting the dice level. I was like, okay, this is easy. I get it. And I can actually have the dice out there and just visually really quickly pick up.
I think that's what I liked the most was
really quickly.
You go through the rules, and there's maybe 3 tables that modify you with +1, and then everything else is the threshold shift. So it made it.
And really, there's only like 3 of them. Like you're behind someone. Yeah. You've done guns D, and there's like a couple more, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, there's just some small ones there. It's so funny because I'm like, oh, thank God, I don't have this stack of modifiers. Because back to the whole Grognard thing.
The way I can't remember stuff, and I've read about how people can only remember you can remember 6 things. And I don't think I can remember 6 things. So I try not to put too many things to remember. I felt like I was pushing it with the number of maneuvers that I put in.
Yeah. Well, I just laughed because
applicable all the time, So
well, there is that, which is funny, where it's like, well, why haven't I never used this maneuver? Well, you didn't end up in the situation you needed it.
Right.
But I always go back and tell the story from Historicon where the Grognard looked at me and said, I don't like games that have saving throws. I think the game designer's lazy if they don't stack up all the modifiers. And I'm like, hey man, it's not the 1970s playing an SPI board game anymore. I don't need to stack my DRMs versus the minus DRMs and go to the CRT and that just makes my head hurt.
On an attack matrix,
Yeah, no, I don't. I just want to look at this and go, let's see here. Firing into the rear face. Ooh, that's a full die threshold. Okay, I'm good on that,
Yep.
So, and that's what most everything is. There's a handful of things that are +1 either because of skill or because of that's what you got on the weapon. But yeah, it's super straightforward. Well, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I guess this is actually the one I should bust you about on. It's kind of funny. Okay. You're a man after my own heart in this sense. I think you must be a secret agent for Litco Acrylic because this is a token heavy game. This is a game that if you don't walk into and go, oh wait a minute, I got to have a way to mark that, and then what about that?
Yeah,
and, you can end up in a loss for markers as we were, but yeah.
Right. Yep. I think that'll be the real measure of success is whether Litco
I might know a guy over there.
Well, then, put in a good word then.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, I've got so many tokens from different games, and yeah, it was always a struggle when I'm designing a game, whether like how many tokens I want to use. It's like I don't like as me as a player, so I write everything like what do I want, you know? It's like the
As
ultimate.
a game designer should. I realize I shouldn't say that after having just shipped games from a Kickstarter, but yes, we don't write these games for everyone else. We write them for ourselves. I'm
I
sorry.
don't give a shit what anyone else thinks about rules.
exactly.
Like, this is the way I want to play, and so it's like my thing is some tokens. Like some people want no tokens, some people like lots of tokens. I want some, like where they're useful, you know.
I'm an acrylic addict. I love acrylic. I have acrylic all over the place. I even have acrylic bags from Litco just hanging out, you know. Look, more lock tokens I didn't need. Yes.
Doug has
like
acrylic
you
for
have
games he's never played.
models or F4F Wildcat models you've never even unboxed. I have acrylic for games I've never played. Yeah.
You might be able to use them for a different game.
Like, exactly. Well, yeah, we were using these for Beyond McGalley and their X-Wing lock tokens, but whatever works. But yeah, so I did laugh because as soon as I went through that, and obviously Osprey had released a series of tokens and markers on the website, we just repurposed our Aeronautica Imperialis ones and we used those, and it was fine.
I started using. I bought my kid when he was starting to Dungeon Master. I was like, okay, I'm not going to give him all my minis. So I looked on Amazon.
Standards, damn it! You get your own miniatures.
This tub of 500 1 centimeter cubes. It's just 1 centimeter cubes in like 10 different colors, and you know, the black monsters are orcs, you know, or whatever, and these ones are you guys, and so I just wrote down on my like roster. It's like, okay, blue is this damage, red is the movement token, orange is this damage, you know, and then so I like the way that just these colored cubes look, so that's probably what I'm going to use from now on. Yeah, that's I do like have when I first was playtesting it with Legos, I used red flags as the movement tokens, so it was like on a like the antenna piece, and then it was a red banner like the Knight's banner, so it looked like you know, flame coming out the engines of the so that was pretty cool. So maybe I can find some triangles or something like that for those.
Well, it's kind of funny because some people get really super bogged down in the bookkeeping with tokens, and they don't necessarily always like that. I think the good thing here is you don't have a whole lot of tokens in play at once. Generally, it's okay. I have a couple modifiers because I've either taken damage or I've done something and I've had to give up a capability. So maybe I'm now a die threshold shift because I'm defending, you know, all these other things that you can do.
Yeah,
out
you're
there.
probably going to blow up if you've got a couple tokens. The next time you get a hit, you're not going to have to worry about those tokens anymore.
Well, that was me because I'm like, oh, maybe I should put a marker out there for having taken damage, and they shot me next turn and got the exact same result and shot me down. And I was like, ooh, I like that. You can't get damaged the same way twice. I'm like, I know. Thank you, Matt. Let me take my airplane off the board now and let the rest of you play.
I like the idea of a plane that has nothing going for it. Still
just remove that one from the board, please.
Like, what the hell am I going to do now?
Make my life easier.
Yeah. Well, it becomes I'm just going to crash into somebody, I guess. Yeah. That said, as I do with like any new game, I just kind of go on the different 3D sites, and there are some 3D tokens somebody has made based off of the stuff in the book already. So
I saw the measuring stick.
So somebody's clearly playing the game. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's probably the same guy. He added the tokens, so those are out there available. Yeah. 48 views and one like. The like is me.
Oh no, that's good though. We were all laughing about people in the metric of, you know, okay, we finally arrived because there's 2 people selling our stuff on Etsy, you know, and it's good to have people that are producing different things for the game, whether it looks the same, whether it's got the same symbols, who cares? Doesn't matter. As long as there's tokens or whatever out there. All right, well let's talk a couple other things that are kind of part of the core game design. Matt already hit on the only 3 weapons. So yes, you have guns, you have torpedoes, and you have mines. You can have variations on a theme amongst those with turrets and things like that. But I liked the fact that there was not a whole lot of fluffery to the weapons. I don't care that it's a mass driver cannon. I just care that it's a gun and it rolls 2d8. And that's
exactly.
Those are my modifiers,
Whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. I had played around with what if it's machine guns and you get a +1 in the first half of the long stick and a -1 in the second half or something like that. And then I was like, no, that's just unnecessary bookkeeping. If that's perfect, and I even have a sidebar in the book about how like if you want finer detail there, then that you should go for it. I just thought once you have turrets, which are 360 fire or facing forward, what else do we need? We don't really need anything. At least
it frees you up to write your own lore, Exactly. So if you've got the bioships, I can't even pronounce, there's too many vowels back to back in consonants and Sindarians and
the jellyfish.
The jellyfish people. Yeah. So you don't need different traits for the weapons. You just need to know what it does, and you can write the lore around and go, this is them squirting crazy space ink at you or whatever.
And in the fiction in the first part of the book, it's acid torpedoes. So it's still a torpedo. It still does the same thing, whatever you want to call it. That's what it is.
Yeah, so I liked that because some people might be like, I need 14 different types of weapons. No, let's just call them guns. Let's know what the laws of the game that they obey and how they have to be shot, and then we'll figure out fluff reasons why your guns are better than my guns, and you roll more dice and shoot me out of the sky all the time. It's not too hard. Well, the other part of it that kind of is a result of that is the how quickly everything dies table, as I call it. Also known as the damage table. Obviously, you are a 3rd edition D&D player because you're somebody who loves the 2d6 bell curve.
That I love. I mean, that's why everything is 2D whatever, right? Because it's easy to keep track of. You can compare those bell curves against one another and figure out your percentages, and there is something that really appeals to me about the symmetrical damage table with the 7 is you're dead.
7 is you're dead.
And everything else, and then it was like, okay, what do I want the probabilities to be if I would have been, and I couldn't bring myself to break them up, to make different probabilities. So they just go in the same order.
Yep.
But,
Doug and Rick had a extensive conversation about that during the game, and I think my eyes just kind of glossed over because I was like, they started on math and the probabilities. And I was like,
it was the same look
just
that
want
Matt
shoot with
gets when I walk him
lasers.
into the Hex Encounter section of a Wargaming store and say, "Hey, Matt, want to go see some old games?" It's like, no, I'm good. Where's the miniatures?
right.
Really don't care. No, the hit table for everyone who hasn't looked at the rules, your highest percentage chance of rolling on your 2d6, number 7 is a hull hit, and you're out of the game. You're done. No questions asked. So it's kind of cool that things die quickly. And then, like we alluded to earlier, if you get the same result twice for most things, I mean, sometimes weapons you can, if you have multiple weapons, you can take different hits of that. But most of the other ones, the second result, and you're done. So makes it, I enjoyed it because it made it deadly without being just one shot and you're done. There's some flavor there that you might live for a few turns limping around with either a engine hit, systems hit, weapon hit, things like that.
Yep, and you can spend your command point if you keep one back for better lucky than good, so that you can control which way. Yeah, you can add a +1 or a -1 to that roll.
Yeah, we didn't do that. Well, it wouldn't have mattered. We kept burning all of our
rule.
Yeah, we burned our command points all the time. We wouldn't have had any left.
because you didn't tell us about
One
it.
more thing, I was like, God, we only have 2 command points. Come on, there's not much that we have to spend them on.
Don't worry, because
besides-
I, as the game designer, forget all the time. I'd be playtesting. It's like, oh yeah, I could repair myself. It's like I wrote that rule. Like I still can't.
You think you'd remember it.
Right,
Yeah,
right. It's not true.
So much. Yep. Well, the last thing I want to talk about mechanics wise that was awesome, although I have to ask you, how many people have lost their crap over it? No pre-measurement. It's awesome. We sometimes have played Blood Red Skies that way, and it's a lot of fun to play. And there's a lot of moments where you're like, I suck. I in fact truly suck.
Right.
What's been the feedback on that as part of the core rules?
I haven't really had much feedback on that. It just comes from, like it just slows things down if you're like, oh, maybe I'll do this. And and it probably is me with a reaction to when I had it as a hex game. Like, okay, I go 1, 2, 3, turn, 4, turn. And then, oh no, I don't want to do that. Let me go back to the beginning and then do it again. It's like, no.
Well, in some games you end up in a do loop of that because like Aeronautica Imperialis, where you have to set your speed before you move. And if you let people, as you say, have backsies, then they go back and they change something they were supposed to have done at the start of the move by changing their speed. And it totally opens up more options of their maneuvers. And it just, if people aren't quickly moving and driving the game to a logical conclusion, then you'll sit there all night. And we have some players that do that.
I think it's part of the fog of war too. Like maybe you don't like. I was for the blog post that I did for Osprey, which is a playthrough. I was like, I was trying to eyeball it like this a torpedo shot in the first round. Like, okay, I'm going to try it. I think that's probably right. And it was nowhere near. It was nowhere near. It was like 3 inches off. And it's like, okay, I still can't judge distances, I guess. Yeah. So
I like the way you put it. You said, yes, you can lay your sticks at the side of the game board and make furtive glances at them while wondering if the distance you're agonizing over is 10 or 11 inches. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
I enjoyed that part. It does make for quicker decision making. It does make for some just blatant, screwing of things and horribly missing.
I mean, a real pilot would screw things up sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. There's things that you think eyeball calibration, and you're dead wrong. So it was. I really enjoyed that piece, and that kind of to summarize things, that for me was the biggest part of decision making was when I put that template down there, I am committed to doing what I've said I was going to do. And so I have to have already calculated all the odds in my head, everything before I pick up the template and say, okay, I'm going to shoot guns and drop it in front of me.
Yep.
So.
Exactly.
Well, there's a lot of other things that we could go into that, the intent of this isn't so much to do a rules deep dive and to lay out all the different things that, that the game opens up and the ways it does weapons arcs and stuff like that. Suffice it to say, I enjoyed all the things it did differently. I didn't hit any big stumbling blocks. Now, Matt, obviously we only played, 4 fighters total, 1 fighter per person playing. Anything that struck you that you said, this might be a problem when we go to larger games?
No, it was really intuitive once you divorce yourself from other games, realize that it's its own thing for sure. The stuff that I thought would be a little wonky, like the way weapons are pointed forward, there's no arc. I thought that was going to be a little bit odd, but it worked. And also, like, hey, we're in space. They're probably lasers. They're probably going in one direction only. Not a fan. That all made a lot of sense. I like the way the torpedoes work. We didn't play with mines yet, so there's a lot of stuff that I want to go through, and it definitely made me want to actually deep dive in the book. Hopefully, I'll get to do that sometime this weekend. And I think it's really well put together product. At the end of the day, the art is absolutely beautiful. Like that front cover spaceship.
He's so good.
If I could ask you one thing, find someone to 3D model that spaceship. That design is so cool. I want to paint it, and I want to be able to play with it. And I did look up the other ships that you referenced in the book where you got those. Those are really cool looking. But that
That's
one
not my favorite.
on the
I'm
cover
sorry.
is just gorgeous.
No. There's, I don't know if it's a Confed escort or whatever, a sleek looking one over somewhere on one of the pages. But my favorite is the big gunship in the landing zone with the door open and the dude leaning out. I was like, okay, I need one of those. Whatever
cool.
that is, I need
neat.
one of those. That thing looks badass.
Yep.
Yeah. And what I thought was maybe the best thing for me, and again, I like, as Doug has said a number of times, it's hard to get me out to play. I do a lot of painting and a lot of building miniatures, and a lot of looking at miniatures, and own a lot of owning of miniatures. This got me excited to go find miniatures like for those loadouts. I was on a couple of 3D sites looking at some of like BattleTech stuff. They've got a bunch of space planes that are
I think
perfect
Brigade
for
has
this.
some nice chunky like 70s 80s style, like look like right out of Buck Rogers or stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Jeff, I feel like I've contributed something to the gaming world
games,
because Brigade Models, their fighters were designed for Squadron Commander 3600 back in the day. So I feel this has come full circle if people are playing with those models now.
Perfect.
And yes,
Perfect.
Pat Doyle and I did something back in the 90s.
Yeah. But I think it's a really wonderful design, and it's filling definitely a niche genre of gaming that, and we've said this multiple times, there's not a lot of aerial wargaming. There's not a lot of popular aerial wargaming. There's even less space aerial wargaming, and especially I think there's a void now with X-Wing being defunct, that I think this can do a good job of filling for people who's got a bunch of space miniatures and maybe get tired of using the templates or want to try something different. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, and some people were just making flats, or they were printing out like little pixely Galaga looking spaceships to use, and just putting them in those bottle cap stickers, like all that stuff, or the clothespin spaceships. I've got a couple of fleets of those.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. Have you seen people cutting apart Bic pens and making spaceships out of that? That's what this is to me. This is a bit like a Gaslands for space fighters. That's what this absolutely feels like. And I've played Gaslands I think twice. This was just as fun as Gaslands to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, that absolutely intended to be like that. Yeah. Awesome.
Probably a little bit more so because it's in a niche of like subject matter that I'm really, really into. So right. I really appreciate you for coming on and talking to us, and especially putting this together, because otherwise we'd just be playing Aeronautica, and I don't think we'd probably make it back around to X-Wing.
No, I would. I'd have 2 X-Wing starter sets sitting there just collecting dust, because they're first edition starter sets, so nobody plays first edition anymore.
Yeah, I gotta say that when you emailed the Osprey marketing people to get my email, and I was like, oh, who are these guys? So I asked one of my buddies who listens to every gaming podcast, because I don't really listen to any. He's like, do you know these guys? Do you know Lead Pursuit? And he's like, oh yeah, I played with their Doug at Falland. Nice. You can say hi to Jim Lamanna from Pittsburgh the next time.
Yep. Oh, that's funny.
Convention with him.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about how small in some ways the gaming community is.
Right.
That we all run into each other, and Pat Doyle, who was one of my old gaming friends from flight school from years ago, had played Federation Commander in like the National Federation Commander Championships at Gen Con and stuff. So there's people he knew that I'm like, how do you know that guy? That guy's like a Starfleet Battles and FedCom guy. Right. So yeah, it's kind of funny how it gets small. Well, anything else you want to cover, Casey, before we wrap this up? Anything else you want people to know about Voidfighter or what you've got in the works?
I'm going to have some more books coming out from Osprey. Nothing is finalized. But there's going to be more stuff. A friend of mine gave me a really good idea, so I might do the bones of Voidfighter in a different genre. He had a really great idea, so I might do that. But yeah, I've got Discord, Space Weirdos and Friends is what it's called right now. I should probably change it to Garske Games or something like that at some point. That's my actual gaming imprint. But yeah, if you look for Space Weirdos and Friends, you can find me on Discord.
Cool. That's what I was going to ask is how do we get to your Discord, since Discord sometimes is a little difficult to navigate and find.
I still don't understand how people actually find things. It's like, where did you get this link?
I think the only way they do is the server pays the vast amount of money to get a fixed link every month.
Oh, okay, right. And
I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
So it's got to be people inviting individuals.
Not for us.
It's not me. I'm not marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks also for writing Voidfighter and sharing all that with us, because it's a hell of a lot of fun. I know it's now going to steal some of my time away as I try to play other things.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Excellent. And with that, I'm going to leave us with Matt's favorite outro line: keep climbing for advantage.